Welcome to Goalie Science, the podcast that bridges the gap between goaltending, science, and peak performance. I'm your host, Jamie Phillips, a former professional goalie, currently pursuing a doctorate in physical therapy and specializing in goalie performance coaching. Joining me as always is Dr. Ben Cernick, a seasoned goalie coach and sports analytics specialist. Whether you find yourself at home, on the road, or at the rink, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
Jamie, you're back this week, and thank goodness, because doing solo episodes gives me chest pain. And as a future physical therapist, you got a screen for that. So how am I doing?
Chest pain. Looks like you have tight piriform.
yeah, it starts in my left big toe, and the kinetic chain links to my chest.
Sorry, I
Jamie,
as a physical therapist, I cannot diagnose. You have generalized weakness and range of motion deficits.
That is a fantastic answer, and that's talking scope of practice in the state of Michigan with Jamie Phillips. Today, Jamie, you're back, thank goodness, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why I think goalies can and should be the best penalty killer on their team. And that's an old adage, like that's an old saying, goalies got to be the best penalty killer. But goalies need to be better penalty killers. And so I wanted to talk today about some power play things, some trends we're starting to see with how younger and older goalies are playing situations on power plays, and some advice that we can give to goalies, to coaches, to everyone on how to be just a better, smarter goalie on the power play. How do you feel about that?
I think it's good. I feel like this is, again, one of the, is it just me, or do goalies have to be the best at everything all the time? Goalies need to be the best skaters on the team. Goalies need to somehow be the best puck handlers on their team. Need to be the best penalty killer. Soon it's just going to be goalies need to be the best, like, net front PP guys too. It's just, it never ends. But I agree. And I know we were talking before the show a little bit about the topic, and there's so many like different underlying things that we're going to get into that we've kind of like already talked about. But I feel like this goes, like, sometimes just doesn't go, people just kind of like push it under the rug. Like, they forget about these things and how important they are. And then the first thing I'm going to start off with before you get into a lot more of your technical analysis is goalies, stop blaming your D for everything. And this is, I had to have a couple personal talks with some goalies this week, and I hate having heart-to-heart. I don't hate having heart-to-hearts. It's just, sometimes I wish I didn't.
I hate emotions.
Sometimes I wish it didn't have to, but like, understanding that sometimes your team is not, you're not going to have a good team, or sometimes your team's going to have a bad night.
Yep.
And sometimes your defensemen are going to turn it over, and sometimes they're going to try to block a shot and it's going to go off them and in the net. But the last thing you can do is you can't get mad at them, because like, goalies are the rock of the team. Everyone, the emotions on the bench kind of get fed, they're influenced by the goalies. So if you're starting to lose it and you're getting frustrated, it's easy for the team to get derailed on the bench. And if you're staying calm and composed, the players will see that, they stay calm and composed. And when it goes through like penalty kill, oftentimes you'll hear, well, we gave up like 7 penalties. Yeah, it's hockey. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, what do you want? Like, it's hockey. You have to kill it. It's part of your job to understand it and to know that you're going to have to learn how to kill penalties. And that's part of it. And that's a big role. And we as goalies need to step up. And us as goalie coaches, we need to step up for our goalies. And especially as goalie coaches who are involved in team settings, we need to be highly involved in the penalty kill. How do we break it down? What are we looking for? And like, how do we prepare goalies in advance for other teams' penalty, like, power plays? And this is a lot easier when you're at like college and junior level, when you get video and pre-scout. Obviously, in minor hockey, you don't always have those opportunities, but it's just really important. And I want to preface that before we say anything. Like, goalies, if your team's giving up a lot of penalties, or your defensemen aren't getting their spots or giving up opportunities short-handed, just stop blaming them. Stop blaming them on the ice. Stop blaming them off the ice. You don't have to blame yourself for the goals you let up, but just understand that it is what it is, and then look and see where can you improve and go from there. Because it will be better for everyone, yourself, your mental health, and the team's mental health and the way that they treat you if you're just kind and you're not yelling at your defenseman all the time. All right, had to get I just penned that one up for the last week because it wasn't on, and I needed to get that up. But it's actually like you'd be surprised how many goalies like I watch their film and like when I scout, and they're like just I can tell over video that they're yelling at their defenseman, and I'm like if I can tell over the internet, that's not good.
Yeah, it's a great start. I mean, one thing that I say a lot, just to build up that, Jay, before we start, is that goals are going to happen, right? Good goals, bad goals, everything in between. Right? Goals can be an entire team's fault, goalies including, and goals can just happen that are really good goals, right? Like sometimes teams just score a really nice goal and it's not really a defender's fault, not really a forward's fault, not really a goalie's fault. It's like, oh, that was just kind of a good goal, right? So, and sometimes it's a complete opposite. Sometimes it's all 6 people on the ice's fault. But we got
nothing
be aware of.
Nothing drives me more crazy that like when watching video or something, and then they'll be like, "Well, my defenseman," and like it's always something. It's always something, and I'm like, I don't know what you want. Like I tell us like always, like don't trust your defenseman or forwards to make the right thing.
Yeah,
you have to prepare for them to do the wrong thing and turn it over, or to fumble it, or do all these things. And like when you're making a pass to your defenseman, you have to make sure it's flat. You have to give them the most opportunity to succeed, rather for them to make you don't want to force an error. And all the time, it's always, well, my defenseman did this, my defenseman did that. And actually, like, I have a video right here on my other screen that I've just been downloading for my breakdowns of my goalies, and it's a 2-0. It's a 2-0. It's a 2-0. So like, I can understand why someone would say like, well, where are my defensemen? I don't know. I can't answer that for you, but all I can help you with is what did you do leading up to this? Did you see that your defensemen were behind the play? Like, let's just stop always blaming someone else for things. But okay, I digress. Welcome back to the pod, Jamie. Let's get to it. All right, penalty kill. What do you got?
So first things first, and you kind of alluded to it before. For minor hockey goalies, it's harder to plan for another team's power play because you're not pre-scouting, nearly as much that goes on in junior or university. But I think as a goalie, you should have a very good understanding of the major power play systems that teams run, right? If you are a goalie and you are, let's say, I'm going to throw an arbitrary age out, 14, you should be able to walk me through an overload, an umbrella, and truthfully, in this day and age, a 1-3-1 bumper system. And you should tell me what teams are trying to do. Because realistically, teams are only, for the most part, using those 3 things. And a lot less bumper the younger you get, a lot more just overload, maybe an umbrella, right? So, but that's the first thing, is understanding that structure, right? So if you don't understand where the major threats are in each of those systems and you can't identify what system a team is in, that's step 1. So I just wanted to walk people through an umbrella. And like, again, this is not going to be very long, but again, umbrella setup is really, really, really simple. It's normally kind of 3 guys high with a floater on the weak side, 2 guys in front of the net, 1 guy can bump off to the side. Admittedly, teams don't really bump a guy off to the side very well in an umbrella, especially at younger ages. There's normally just people hanging out in front of the net or around the side of the net, right? Overload typically works off the half wall, interchanging with the winger on the wall down low and D up on the high end. And they're just, most of the time, they're trying to get an awkward shift out of your PK, right? So understanding that those 2 systems are primarily what most teams run at almost all levels until you get to really upper level junior college and beyond that. Those systems are like very readable as a goalie, very, very, very readable. And you can be pretty easily identify what's going on there, right? Umbrellas are typically looking for that shot from either side being distributed from the top, and overload's typically working for a pass down low with a guy that walks out from that low spot to a backdoor pass or a quick jam. Like those are really the only plays that typically come out of those. So step 1, understanding systems. Jamie's thoughts?
I agree, and I alluded to it briefly earlier. I personally,
Jamie, talking to the microphone.
Oh, sorry, I'm starting to drift away. I don't know. It's it's been a week. I'm rusty, man. I forgot how to talk. I forgot to speak.
I'm talking from Antarctica.
Yeah. So I personally like I've kind of been on this kick of like goalie coaches taking more ownership over what we do. And I definitely think, but I've seen it firsthand from myself and from others, where we need to be involved in the pre-scout as well. And we need to, we need to understand what is an overlap, what is a 1-3-1, what umbrella, like all the power play.
Overlap?
Did I say overlap? Overload, excuse me. I also think we need to understand what
goalie coach
is too.
Yes, we do.
And so understanding the different structures, we just also need to like think about our goalie, because we're the ones that are goalies. We're the ones that are with them day to day. And we talk about goalies being able to play into the strength of their team. And we also need to look at our goalies playing into their weaknesses of the penalty kill. Like if the head coach really wants to end up giving up like that cross ice one-timer on like a 1-3-1, like where the bumper guy kind of like fakes pass, pulls the defender out of position, but our goalie is not a great skater, we have to like say like, hey, there's a good chance, you know, our goalie's not going to be able to get across and be able to make that save, or if they do, it's going to be like a low percentage. I'd much prefer just to give up that straight shot, because they're more confident making that save dead on than being able to make that pass through the seam, or their patience isn't very good and they're not able to read that option or that fake pass. So that's something we really need to do. And then we also need to like explain why we're doing things with the goalies and being like, okay, we're playing so-and-so this weekend. Ask them, what's their power play? If they say, I don't know, it's be like, how do you not know? We had about 3 video sessions on this. And then so go back, watch videos with it. And then when we do, as I used to do this at Tech, was I would kind of like taper into like the Monday's goalie skate would be like just general warm up and stuff. And then we get more specific as the week goes on. And then finally at the end, it'd be like, what are the shots we're going to give up most of the time on the penalty kill? And I would just feed those shots again and again and again and again and be like, this is what you're going to see. This is the penalty kill. And like, you know, Mankato was like our rival. They always found that seam. They did a really good job of it. So it's like, you know, we're going to get into like depth. We got to manage depth. We have to manage this, the options and all the things. And I think we did a really good job with that. So as goalie coaches, this is like our time to shine. Like we don't do a whole lot with breakouts or neutral zone or anything like that. But when it comes to penalty kill, we can talk, and we can have a voice, and we can influence everything, because the head coach, it's probably the only time head coaches are going to listen to us. Still probably won't, but there's a good chance they might.
Yeah. And so that's exactly where I was going to take the next conversation. So we've identified what power play other team we're playing against is running, what their major opportunities are going to be. And now we have to understand how we want to play those and what benefits your playing style and your team's playing style. So exactly where you went, right? The number one example, I'm just going to keep, I guess, parroting what you said, is that teams are always looking for a cross seam pass, right? Whether it's an overload, a 1-3-1, or an umbrella, we love a cross seam pass. Everyone knows that a pass that goes through the Royal Road with a shot that's less than a second after it goes through that Royal Road is a much better scoring chance than pretty much any straight shot you can ever get, right? That's the statistic. Sorry, I know I was like, are you going to disagree? I was like, that's the statistic.
No,
within I think it's under 2 seconds of a release following a pass across the bid line is like a pretty significant jump in goals. So makes sense. It's a lot of movement for the goalie, but teams can build their penalty structure to take away that seam pass and in favor of forced shot, right? Mm-hmm. And if we look at something like even like a 1-3-1 or an umbrella, that middle, like that high pass to the one timer on the side should not be that much of a challenge for a goalie, right? That's where we can start getting into a kind of a lateral release where the goalie's at top of the crease and just kind of does this extended shuffle to the angle, and you should be able to drive into a butterfly or make that save while moving. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the skills I want to talk about for goalies. Again, as we're getting older, one of the skills you need to have as part of reading the power play system that the team's playing is the ability to lateral release into saves. Jay had thoughts on using a lateral release.
I use lateral release. It's basically almost every drill that I see with. But the last like 3 weeks for me has just kind of been this like reverse window and lateral releases. It's kind of actually only thing I've been doing, because I feel like I've been watching a lot of, I mean, like a lot of younger hockey and a lot of, well, just hockey in general, in the very little free time that I have, and that those seem to be the most important movements that I can identify right now that are coming into play in zone. I'm not talking about rush stuff. I'm talking about in zone play.
Yeah.
There's something happens, and that goalie, there's a pass that you can beat on your, should be able to beat on your feet, but that shot does occur fast, like quicker than you might think. So you have to be able to lateral release. So that's a skill. Like it's a lot of my younger goalies have really been struggling on it, and I think it's just a coordination thing. So the cue that
big time.
The cue that I've been using is I want you to shuffle, stop, drop, and I say it quickly. I say shuffle, stop, drop, and I want everything to kind of work in tandem. So as you're shuffling, you have to stop with your lead leg, but that's also the leg you're dropping with first. So it's no, so you sort of drop with the opposite leg first, but they come down almost at the same time.
I always say it's like as you're stopping, it's driving down. I use the exact same cue. I also use shuffle, stop, drop. So good for us for not talking about this, but getting on the
that's actually pretty. Yeah, we definitely didn't think of that. That's pretty cool. So are we the best goalie coaches of all time? So that's the cue. No, definitely not. But that's the cue that I've been using. And then I also find like that too, because if we think about a power play situation, if there's a shot at that one timer, chances are if they don't score, there's going to be some sort of rebound, and oftentimes that ends up behind the net. So you can merge that right into a reverse window. And now you're in a position where you've potentially made a save from a lateral release on your knees. Now that puck is behind the net. What do you do? And you are outnumbered in front. You're outnumbered. Actually, you'd probably be even 4-4 in front of the net, but you can now play that on your knees or on your feet. Now, what do you do? How do you manage this? And so how do you make that read? So a lot of I think the last 3 weeks, I've done similar drills with all my goalies working on this exact thing. And then when it comes to lateral release too, where a lot of goalies initially struggle is the long shuffle, the ability to long shuffle. So our whole lives we're taught that shuffles are for small movements, and that is true. But now we're in a position where we have to be able to move a large distance without opening up our toe. Because if we open up our toe, we have to then close it, stop, and then drop, which is extra movement versus a shuffle into a save. So we go from 4 or 5 movements into 2 or 3 movements into a save, which buys us time. And so I skated with a couple of minor pro goalies on Friday, and that ability to get that long shuffle is something that they're like, we never were taught this. And so when I do skating drills, long shuffles, long shuffles, long shuffles, long shuffles. Everyone can do short little onion chopping shuffles. I mean, you should be able to. But when you get the older ages, your ability to be able to glide on really on one foot and be balanced and be able to stop yourself is as a skill that not enough goalies that I've come across have, or at least for my biases and what I'd like to see in their skating ability.
Do I for a drill, like a warm-up drill that really highlights this? It's a drill. You don't need a net for it, but you just a little bit of combo skating. So 2 little quick shuffles into a long shuffle, or 2 little quick shuffles into a long T-push, just forcing a quick process of feet go, right? And forcing you to use both different movements. I like that one. It gets people thinking, and gets people identifying the difference between those movements without, outright explaining these are 2 different things. You just tell them to do it, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I find that actually kind of helpful, especially for the young goalies. Okay. So we've covered understanding the system. We've covered understanding some skills, like using a lateral release, understanding that pucks behind the net might be down to an RVH, using that window through the net, or it might be getting back to your feet. I think both you and I would say, just to wrap that one up, that if there's a puck, a pin to puck battle, that's probably a good chance to get up to your feet. I know goalies.
Oh gosh, please.
Get up.
Yes, get up.
Get up. Yeah. Use that RVH window if there's still a dynamic play going on. But if your DE crashes behind that net to pin the player, the forward behind the net, just get up. That's a really good time to get up. Yeah, and this also, is a big plug. Oh, go ahead.
No, I want you to plug somebody.
Yeah. Well, it's not you. It's you. Jamie has some good content. On behind the net stuff, RVH getting up. But if you're looking for some NHL goalies who do this really well, Joseph Wall, really, really good at going RVH, then up onto his feet when the puck is behind the net. Really, really good at it. Someone else who's actually sneaky good at it, but is just not having the best team ever is Carter Hart. Does this really well. Doesn't sit in an RBH too long. So those are a couple goalie plugs for people who have really, really nice post-to-post coverage, but also are pretty good to get back to their feet rather quickly.
I agree. I was going to say just understanding when a basic rebound like recoveries. When do you have time to get up? When do you stay down? And I think that again, that's another thing that a lot of goalies are confused about. They don't know when they get up, and they ask me, and I go, I don't. And I look. Oftentimes, I look at them, and I'd be like, "What do you mean? Is the puck dangerous? No. Okay, then get up. It doesn't.
Puck go far away.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
it's like many word and few word good.
I was working on that, like, the old zigzag entry into the RVH that everyone's talking about, and so it's just like, is the puck dangerous? No. Okay, that doesn't matter. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter. If the puck's not dangerous, it doesn't really matter because you can get up because you have time. If the puck's dangerous, then it matters. Then yeah, the zigzag technique isn't great because I'm just going to shoot it off your butt or the inside pad of the net or wrap it around.
I know we're immediately going off topic here, but
this is just Jamie rant. This just turns into Jamie's therapy. Jamie's therapy Sundays.
Jamie's hockey. Yeah. The amount of I do a lot of when we're doing lessons, I do a lot of the post work. So if I'm at a session, we got a couple other coaches with me for one of our group lessons, for example. Like, I do a lot of the in-tight post stuff because that's truthfully how I played and what I studied the most, or how I've studied the most. And the amount of times on an in-tight drill, I'll get a rebound that goes just behind the goal line, and I'll just score off a goalie who's taking a bad route into an RBH
all the time.
Right? I think that's something and especially on so this might be more relevant on the power play than any other time, because your team is outnumbered, is understanding. So not planned here, but understanding when you need to just push into your post in a straight line, not caring about an RVH, or also when you need to push in front of your post, despite it being potentially an RVH situation. I think there is a lot of the times, and this is, again, you and I, or Jamie, are very pro RVH. Like, I don't think you can be a modern goalie coach without saying that, like, that is a save selection that you need in your repertoire to be successful. You do. It's like it's a non-argument. Like, you need to use an RVH to be successful in today's hockey game, or in today's game of hockey. So let's just keep that out there. But equally as important, a little scramble play where that puck pops out short side of the net, still above the goal line, that might need to be pushing into a butterfly overlap. Right? That might not be a default pattern into your post. And I think too many goalies default into their post because it's safe, because they're trained to do it. Right? So I've been recently doing a lot of drills where I'm like, if you go into your post on this play, I'll score, because I'm looking for the goalie to go into the post. Right? So I am cheating the drill as the coach, but I'm trying to get goalies to think, okay, when is it safe to go into the post, and when do we need to just play that shot? Right?
Yeah, this we could probably say, we honestly talk a whole episode on this, but a lot of this is for me, like, I getting a new crop of goalies. So it's a lot of like reprogramming the understanding, or just not even reprogramming, teaching the understanding of why we're doing things. I've really found that, and this is what frustrates me, and I hope what we as goalie coaches can do better, is explaining the why. Like, I'll have a goalie being like, I had a guy tell me, like, hey, he was wrapping his elbow around the post he's opposite hand. So he's wrapping his elbow around the post on the glove side. And it was actually like, making him slow, and it was hindering his movement off the post. And I just said, like, how come you wrap your elbow? He goes, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, my goalie coach said I had to. I said, what do you mean? Like, do you like it?
What do you mean?
I was like, do you like it? He goes, no, I don't like it. I was like, so why are you doing it? He's like, I said I was told to. And then so I spent the next 10 minutes explaining to him, like, the different pros and cons of a position like that. And I was like, you ultimately have to decide what works best for you. Here is why I'm not a fan of it. But if you think this is the way you play, it is most comfortable for you, then let's work around that, and let's develop a system around that. So we as goalie coaches, like, just telling kids to do things without explaining the why to do things, that I think probably is one of my biggest pet peeves. But like, I'm getting a lot of goalies that are just like pushing into the post in the RVH. And I am, that rebound is kind of in line with the dot rather than in line with the goal line. And then I just shoot far side and score. And then they go, what am I doing wrong? It's like, you're off your angle.
Safe selection.
Where are you pushing to? They're like, well, I'm supposed to go back to the post. And then I got to bring out the lines and I got to bring out the marker and be like, this is where the net's available. And so it's a lot of understanding why we do things. And I think, and not enough goalies, you need to ask questions about why you're doing things. Goalie coaches, we need to explain why we do things.
Yeah, agreed. Jamie, I want to do what I think the plan is for us. This is what I want. I want to do one more big topic. And then I guess what's becoming a little bit of our fashion, a little bit of a rapid fire end of episode notes. But I want to talk about one more big topic on the power play or on the penalty kill, I should say, for goalies. And I want to do 5-on-4 and 5-on-3.
Oh.
But the number one topic, you knew this was coming, was managing depth on the penalty kill. So I'm going to give a little. Yeah, well, it's because, again, it's the one really big controllable aspect of goaltending that I think, we are a reactionary position. We are at the mercy of the game in front of us. But I think managing depth is one of the more proactive things that goalies can do. And I think that's really, really valuable to take some agency and some ownership of situations on stuff that you can control. And depth is one of them, where you can dictate the play by how you're controlling your depth a little bit. So first things first, a little bit of a summary. On a 5-on-4, it's unlikely that the other team is really pressing their D to the top of the circles, so they're not really collapsing the zone, which does happen on a 5-on-3. So little kind of rule of thumb, you should, on a 5-on-4, your depth should probably be a little bit slightly deeper than a 5-on-5. The reason for that is as more options increase, you need to basically give a little bit less credit to the shot because there's other situations that are likely a cross crease, backdoor, down low. So you need to be a little bit just closer to those options, truthfully, and that's how you get some depth. That becomes even more true on a 5-on-3, where a good team on a 5-on-3 is collapsing the zone to the top of the circles. So now you have this very, very tight boxed window area that you have to try to fight through. And if you're playing with your toes in the white ice on a 5-on-3, you're just gonna get scored on. I'll just kind of say that right now. Good luck.
Yeah, don't do that. There's a lot of times where there's very few times where don't do things. That is one of the times. Don't do that.
Yeah, just don't have your toes in the white ice on a 5-on-3, please. If you're over the age of 13,
okay, fine. Yeah.
Sorry, we're just trying to caveat that, right?
I know. I know.
If there is a chance for a direct seam pass to the bottom of the circle back door, you just need to be deeper. But the big thing for that is, again, as that depth is managed a little bit deeper, what that also allows you to do, and we talked about it kind of early to start the episode here, is that allows you to more comfortably lateral release around your crease, right? Because it's just less distance than if you were, say, out of your crease and trying to get to that same angle with a pass. So 5-on-4, 5-on-3, depth needs to appropriately be reduced, right? So I always say for 5-on-4, Jamie, you can tell me what you think here. 5-on-4, I say toes should be maybe like 2-3 inches below the red outline of the crease. I'm going to say using those pro creases, not ringette creases. For those who don't know the difference, ringette creases are the big half moon or the big semicircle, and pro creases are kind of like the box with the little, round part on the top. I'm not really having a better way of describing that, but they're very different. Ringette creases have that extra blue line. Oh my goodness. But yeah, 5-on-4, toes should be a couple inches inside the red. 5-on-3, it might even need to be a couple of inches back behind that. But don't get this wrong. Do not play on your goal line on the power play. This is not a conversation to sit in the middle of your crease. It's just not being, all the way up to the top. I'd say on a 5-on-3, if you're about a half foot below the top of your crease, you're probably fine to get around. Jamie, thoughts on my general guidance there?
I think that's good general guidance. Typically, that kind of like verbiage I would use for like an older goalie. For like younger goalies or someone's new, I would say that the less players that you have on the ice, 5-on-4 versus 5-on-3 versus 5-on-5, you have to play slightly deeper by about like 2 inches. Every player you lose, probably back up about 2 inches, because you're preparing yourself for more passes. More passes are going to get through in a 5-on-4, than a 5-on-5, and more passes are going to get through on a 5-on-3 than a 5-on-4. So you're just buying yourself some time and space to be able to get over and make the save on a pass. So that's how I would explain it to my younger goalies. But yeah, no, you're right. And I think it's like, again, trying to having video helps because you can show goalies kind of the why and stuff. It is hard if you tell someone for the first time, be like, hey, I want you to play slightly deeper. They think you're like, oh, I want to play like Lundqvist. No, 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 no. I don't want you to be as aggressive as you normally are because X, Y, Z. Here's the reasons why we're doing this.
In depth is like we've done an episode on depth before, but depth is always, for whatever reason, a controversial topic. And we always say it's probably like the media and also like 1990s hockey still bleeding into modern day where you have to stand 3 feet outside your crease to make saves. But this is not a thing anymore, right? Like really, goalies, again, as we get older, we're better. Tracking should be one of your best skills. And again, giving it a little bit of depth up actually can allow you to be a bit of a better tracker sometimes too, right? Yeah. So that's something to consider as well, right? If you watching NHL stuff 5-on-3, goalies end up kind of middle crease a lot of the time, unless there is like a very clear guy stepping to the shot, and then goalies will be a little more aggressive and get closer to top. But I don't disagree with that. I think, again, for younger goalies, I'm not encouraging you to be in the middle of your crease. That might be just too deep, honestly, if you're not fully grown. Right? If you're 4'7", middle of the crease is probably not the world's best spot, even if it allows you to get around, just because the nets are too big. But it also means, that still might be, we want you at the top of the crease or a little bit just below top of the crease. But I don't want you in that.
If you're 4'7", your limbs are also shorter, which means that you can't be super aggressive because if there's a backdoor pass, you still have to be able to get there. So there's a lot that goes. So ultimately, don't be 4'7", be 6'4".
Whoa. We encourage goalies of all heights and sizes here at the Goalies podcast.
But there are, so it's funny because there are times, like especially when you do like RVH work and stuff, I'm like, you're tall. There's going to be some holes, so we have to work around that. So you can either A, adjust the way we're playing, or 2, be taller, and I can only control one of those.
Just be bigger. Yeah, the height one, just be bigger.
Yeah, just be bigger. What do you got for rapid fire?
Managing that. Oh, I wasn't even done talking about managing depth here.
Oh, you weren't?
So I'm going to say the nice combination of managing. No, because the last thing I want to say about managing depth and what it really does by shrinking the distance you need to cover, it allows you to hold your feet longer. And that's one of the biggest skills on a power play that you can have as a goalie is not losing your feet. And that's what I wanted to talk about depth there. So one of the reasons we also want to give up some depth is because you can, again, like I said, lateral release around, less need to take these big T pushes, more ability for you to quickly move, transfer going left, right, quicker ability getting set in your stance, getting square on your angle. And it all starts by you being able to beat pucks because you're able to just get to them faster and you're not giving up feet. There's nothing worse. And you see it all the time. You see it in the NHL. You saw it last night actually with Connor Hellebuck in the Edmonton-Winnipeg game where there's a backdoor pass. And again, backdoor pass to Leon Draisaitl. So you're probably respecting that shot. But he slides and Draisaitl one-touch passes it right back to the high defenseman who just one times at home, and Hellebuck never gets back because he loses feet and then has to push back. And that's an extreme example with, the Edmonton Oilers power play. But watch a game, as soon as a goalie gets slidey on a power play, watch how quickly a team gets a chance. Because there's a pretty good correlation between there.
I do this all the time. I say, we're trying to get you to slide. I'm trying to. Yeah. I say wherever we do stuff, like my goal is I don't want you to slide. The other team's goal is trying to get you to slide as quick as possible.
Yeah. Because the minute you slide backdoor, back high, just to the middle, anywhere really, you've committed, right? And I don't care how good of a skater you are.
You're done.
You're done. And this is going to be a quick shout out to, Jamie and I are going to be very big proponents and big believers in maintaining your feet. But this is, good time in your practice when you're practicing to also be able to slide and regain your feet stance really quickly. Because if you're able to do that and catch edge as you're sliding and transfer, you can get out of those situations. But if you're sliding early and you don't have that ability to quickly pivot, quickly get up back to the middle, back across the crease, then now it's compounding, right? It's getting worse and worse and worse. So you should hold your feet as long as you can. If you do slide, the next skill you need is the ability to quickly transfer, quickly regain your feet and get back to where you need to get to.
Yes, it's just...
Agree, Jamie?
I agree with you, Ben. Like always, we gotta find something we that disagree on, and then we need to just go back to just go at it.
Well, the chance is this rapid fire section. Let's get some. I got a few off the cuff. I I got a few. Do you have stuff, or do you want me to just fire them out?
No,
And see which you disagree?
I want you to just rapid fire at me.
Okay. Number one, every single time that pass goes backdoor from the, like, let's say an umbrella. So high guy to the side guy, whether he's at the top of the circle or at the dot, and a goalie slides into his post, an Angel loses its wings.
Agreed.
Agree, disagree.
Agreed.
Yeah. That is one of my most frustrating things is lines to pucks on power plays. Don't slide to your post unless the puck is like below the bottom of the circle. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's legit all the time. All the time. It's not even just power plays. It's all the time. Bad lines.
Yeah, bad lines.
Yeah.
Next thing, if your team is on the pound a kill and the other team comes in and for whatever reason they decide to do that hard dump, please stay in your net. Don't try to stop that puck that's being rimmed around as hard as they can to the opposite side. Drives me crazy. You just miss it almost every time.
Mine is, it depends. My thing would be, you're probably, you're going to miss it, but talk to your head coach. What do they want? I would say talk to your coaches. Do they want you to try and slow it down, or do they want you to just let it go? I think that is it. For me, it depends. You're probably not going to get it, especially when they ramp it at the blue line. But
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. One of the
then
line been around.
Yeah, just stay there.
Yeah, I'm not saying that team's getting over the red line and dumping it, because a team that's doing that in the power play is probably losing hockey games anyway. It's the play where your team chokes them off of the blue line and they do that intentional hard rim. Yeah, I hate when goalies go and try and play it. Okay. Yeah, sorry, bad distinction there. Goalies. Okay, next one. You lose a puck in a screen or a power play screen. This may just screens in general. Just sit in your butterfly until you find it. Too many goalies start sliding around, trying to find, going crazy, getting up, going down, getting up, going. Just sit in a butterfly. If you go down, try to find the puck. Thoughts, go.
Agreed. Also, it's funny because I've had this exact everything we talked about today. We've had this conversation within the last 2 weeks with the goalies. Yes, if there is like a block shot or something and it's like below the hash marks where the puck is somewhere, you can't find it, but it's somewhere there. Just stay on your knees, be calm, be patient, hands forward, be ready to move, but don't just get up or go push, because that's when you give up goals.
Yep, agreed. Last one. This is it's not a hot take at all. Because you need to be sticky all the time as a goalie, but the importance of eating pucks into your gut, into your hands on the power play, or when your team gets a clear shot and putting a puck out of play on a power play is such an underappreciated ability. That's how you can be a really effective and helpful penalty killer. Stuff that hits you in the belly, whistle, hold it. Glove saves, don't punch that stuff out there. Stick saves, get that stuff in the mesh. That is a chance on a penalty kill. If you get a clean shot, pretty much any clean shot where there's a lane and for whatever reason the team decides to shoot from distance, that is your opportunity to get a whistle. Agreed.
I had this conversation Friday with a goalie. Yes, understanding that there is a time where we talk about like rebound control is like, a symptom of positioning and tracking. But things around our chest, things at our hands, like dumps in that are kind of around our feet from far out, we can't control that, and we should be able to 99% of the time be able to manage that, because there is a huge benefit to being able to kill the play, get fresh legs out, kill the momentum. And we need to also understand this is a time where we need to get a whistle.
Yeah. And that's kind of just where I wanted to end it. It's like, obviously throughout the entire game that you want to be making sure you're doing that stuff. That's a given. This is not just a uniquely power play thing, but the importance of it, or the significance of those rebounds off your chest, off your belly, off your glove hand, just get amplified on a power play, because there's more space for their team, right? So they just there's less chance for your team to bail you out after that little mistake. And again, a rebound off your gut is a mistake. Like, that should never come out. It's going to, but your approach should be, I eat 100% of those. Yeah. Even if you don't, right? Mm-hmm. So, Jamie, I have one more. Oh. I have one more. All right. And it's that. Sorry, this one just came to my head because it's one of the things. If a team is shooting from an angle, so outside of the middle of the ice, mm-hmm. and there's a traffic in front, I say all the time, you can't slide as a goalie on this play because you open yourself up to tips. And people love to say, oh, that goal was tipped, I had no chance on it. and then you slow the clip down and they've slid 3 feet out of their net.
Yes.
Right? The initial shot was going wide.
This is just so like all the things you're saying are things that I think about and are frustrating, and then I just didn't think about till now, and now I'm frustrated. Yeah, again, it just goes down to like understanding the size of the net, how it changes depending on the angle, and how little that you as a goalie have to move. And on tips, like if someone shoots it kind of, I would say, by your shin or your toe with your pad, you don't need this massive slide to make that save. Maybe you need like a slight center shift, or you don't even need anything at all. But if there's a tip option, just know that the tip could occur. So if you're sliding too far one way, you see it all the time. It gets tipped the other direction and the goalie's swimming. But he could have been there. One, he could have made that initial save by just staying in the same spot. And two, he would have made that tip save by just staying in the same spot. So yes, again, that is something that needs to be taught. You have to be taught that. It has to be repeated, and understand, and make sure that there is understanding from the coaches and the goalies about why. And also, when the puck moves on the angle, we have the advantage as the goalies. When the puck's directly in the slot, that is the only time that that's when we're at our most disadvantage.
It's bad. It's bad news.
Bad news bears.
Yeah. And so to add that, yeah, that's for those direct tips. But on the same vein, if that defenseman or that forward is shooting a little bit wider than it intentionally for a forward who's looking for a midline tip or a side of the net tip, conversely, you have to square up to the tip. And that's a huge mistake. I see goalies will slide without squaring up on that tip, and then it beats them under the arm or over the pad because they're just sliding sideways essentially without squaring up to the tip. So that's a shot to the tip to the middle of the net, or a shot to the tip to the side of the net. You've got to square up.
Agree.
Jamie?
No, I agree. I agree on all these things. Any more hot?
Those are hard. Tips are hard.
Tips are hard.
No,
tips are hard, but like, I mean, my tips are hard, but your pre-position of tips, it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I said it there, but I think goalies overplay tips. Like I said, I think like a high tip is a really hard play.
Oh, so hard.
But I think, yeah, high tips suck, especially when it's like a hard slap pass and the guy just wraps it like post in. You're like, all right, nice play. But I think those in tight tips, a lot of the time, while they're really impressive, they're sometimes just misplays by goalies, right? Just not appreciating where position needs to be. Like, it's actually just a mispositioning. It's not a goalie's fault, but there is room for improvement.
Agreed on all counts.
All right, so that's what I had. I want to talk about, again, goalies have to be the best at everything, turns out.
We just have
no excuses.
The best
just remember, when you lose the game 2-1, it is the goalie's fault. And when you win the game 2-1, it is a team win. Just a brilliant team effort is what I always say. That's what I firmly believe too. It's always the goalie's fault. So let's continue with that. Trauma breeds talent. And let's continually traumatize. It's true. I think there's a paper actually that's titled that, but it's anyways. We'll dive into that with another time.
We'll get a psychologist on and talk about that.
Yeah, it's just a live therapy session. You can what's going on in the heads. But again, I hope some of this conversation at least gets people thinking about how they can be a better penalty killer, how they can play things more responsibly, right? At the end, we are at the mercy of our own team, as we always are. On the penalty kill, that gets even worse. So what parts can we take control of, right? We can take control of our positioning. We can take control of understanding what reads are going to be there based on how the other team's playing. So there are some things in our goalie's control. And hopefully, if you haven't been thinking about that, you are now. And if you do think about that, you feel validated that your approach makes sense and that your approach is backed with a good amount of intent and purpose. Jamie, any final closing thoughts before I plug all of your stuff, or do you want to plug your own stuff?
No, I'll plug the stuff. Just thanks everyone for listening, watching. We are on YouTube, so thanks to everyone that comments on YouTube for the algorithm. I've been trying to respond to those, so thank you. One thing you can do is you could just put it on in the background and turn the volume down and just let it run. Because YouTube really cares about playback minutes. Same as Spotify.
They do, yeah.
Just press play and turn it down. Or maybe you're just working in the garden or shoveling snow and you just play it in the background. But in all seriousness, thank you for listening, for watching, for supporting. comment, like, share, all that stuff. Like, you know the drill. We don't have to keep saying it. Yeah. That.
If you want more goaltending educational content, as always, I would recommend you checking out Jamie Phillips on Instagram, check him out on YouTube, and most importantly, check him out and subscribe over at Patreon, where I said this last week in the solo episode that Jamie did not listen to, but I said that it is the best place for goaltending education content. It gives you another voice to hear. It gives you another perspective on goalie coaching, whether you have your own goalie coach or whether you don't have one at all. There's lots of information there, and Jamie does it for providing it for a pretty reasonable price of free over at YouTube and a couple bucks over at Patreon. So if you haven't checked that out and you want to learn more and get more cool information, I strongly encourage that. This is not a paid sponsorship. Jamie doesn't pay me.
Thank you. That was good. That was a good plug. Let's end it at that.
Jamie, until next time.